Okay, my nerds. Let's let's finish up oligopolies by talking about the graphs. How do we graph these things? Hopefully, you're getting the grasp of the game theory matrix. Hopefully, you've played that back a couple times. Hopefully, you did those FRQs. You did well on those. And if you have, you're in a good spot. Let's take a look at oligopoly graphs. All right, because firms are interdependent, you're going to see three different types of oligopolies. All right, the first one is price leadership. Price leadership has no graph. And this would be an instance where someone had a dominant strategy, your QT sitting on one corner, there's a mom and pop's gas station sitting on the other corner, and because he has the price leadership, he basically prices on his dominant strategy and doesn't have to worry about what the other one's doing. Therefore, there is no graph. We'll talk just a touch more about that here in a second. Then there are colluding oligopolies. Okay, so this is a situation where the oligopolies either talk to each other, or there's a QT and a racetrack, and they have a big sign up that says how much their gas is on both sides, and so they aren't technically talking to each other, but I can see what your price is, you can see what my price is, and we may end up keeping those close to each other. Okay, their graph is a very familiar graph to one you've already seen. All right, and then there is a non-colluding oligopoly where they don't talk to each other, so one of them has this incentive to cheat or change their price, and we'll see what that comes with a very rare kinked demand curve. I'm going to show it to you. I almost guarantee you 450,000% you're not going to get a question on it on the AP exam, especially in the abbreviated format that you're taking this year. All right, so number one, price leadership is a pretty easy one. It's this idea that you have people that you have these gas stations all on the corner, and they are able to price their gas because they're in one location. They have the ability to see what the other one's pricing it at. Notice up there it says that OPEC does this with oil because they know that they don't have to worry about what the other oil producing countries are doing. We're all going to make it kind of the same price and sell it to the open market, and the gas stations are kind of the same. Okay, so collusion obviously is illegal. Firms cannot legally set prices. So price leadership is a strategy used to be able to coordinate the prices without just flat out talking about it. Okay, the general process is the dominant firm, the QT, initiates a price change. Right, their gas was $2.04. They make it $1.99. Well, what is the firm on the other side of the street going to do? Right, firm on the other side of the street is obviously going to have to follow their pricing strategy. Okay, and so a couple of breakdowns, a couple of things that can go wrong with price leadership are temporary price wars. If one starts to drop his price, or if he raises the price and the other firm doesn't go up with you, right? Then what are you going to eventually have to do if you're going to sell anything? Right? You're going to have to end up dropping your price below theirs, and then they're going to drop their price below yours, and then you get this slippery slope of a temporary price war. Okay, as they try to undercut each other. Some examples: Cars did this not too long ago, where it became Ford had employee pricing, and Chevrolet had friends and family, and they started coming up with all these different ways to be able to keep up with the other. So price leadership, you get that one dominant firm making the decisions, and then everybody else either has to follow along or maybe not, right? Colluding oligopolies. These are oligopolies that are going to talk to each other, and if they do collude, they don't cheat on the agreement that they make. They make their agreement and they stick with it. All right, that's going to give you a very familiar graph because this leads to. I was going to jump straight to the graph, but let's talk about colluding oligopolies Some textbooks call them cartels. We know the cartels from the Netflix shows and all that. It's a little bit different, but kind of the same theory. A group of producers that create an agreement, they fix their prices high, right? They set this at an agreed upon price, an agreed upon level of output, and no one cheats on that, right? So obviously, you got to have identical or very, very similar product, gasoline, and you got to have a very similar cost, which is whatever they're going to pay for it. All right, and then they got to have a way, obviously, to punish someone should someone want to cheat on the agreement. All right, and so together, a colluding oligopoly, just think about this, should make sense. A colluding oligopoly is really a monopoly. It's just two businesses have decided that they're going to be price makers. They make the price, they set the price, everyone sticks to that price, and they split the profits. Okay? So firms in a colluding oligopoly, their graph is a monopoly graph. There's no way to tell them apart. If I showed you this graph and I would go, hey, is this a monopoly or is this a colluding oligopoly? There's no way to tell, right? If asked to draw either one, this is what you would end up drawing. Okay, so it's going to be a monopoly. Now, the trickiest thing was I did see a question on a colluding oligopoly one time, and it asked you to calculate the profit, right? And so you calculate the profit, and let's say we ended up doing total cost, and the profit was $50. Well, total profit was $50. Firm A made $25, firm B made $25, right? And the question had something to do with, how much did, Billy Bob's Bucking Broncos make as they were colluding oligopoly with somebody else, and kids went in and calculated total profit, but they forgot to split it because of them being a colluding oligopoly. So just be careful on that one. All right, and then the last one. Last graph, last part of 4.3 is a non-colluding oligopoly. So these are the ones that do not set their price. All right. So what you end up with is a kinked demand curve. I'm going to show you this kind of short and sweet. You can play the Clifford video. Like I said before, I would know that a non-colluding oligopoly results in a kinked demand curve. You will not have to draw one for me. You will not have to draw one on the test. I will almost guarantee you my first ever houseboat that I buy that you will not have to draw this on the AP exam. All right. But let's just talk about it real quick. So kink demand curve model shows how they are interdependent. They're not colluding, and they are that they are likely to react to the competitor's pricing in two ways. One, if one firm cuts its price, then you can either do one of two things. You can either match it, right, causing inelastic demand, or you can ignore it, right, causing elastic demand. All right. If you want to slow that down and think about it, if one firm cuts its prices and then the other firm follows suit, this is going to cause inelastic demand because the price really doesn't change. Okay? If one firm raises their price and the others keep their price down, then this might cause elastic demand because across the street, Zach decided he was going to, take the price of his widgets way up. All of a sudden, the demand for my widgets changed because I didn't raise my price, right? I ignored what Zach did, and I kind of stuck with my own pricing, and all of a sudden, the demand for my product ends up changing, all right? So that's the two scenarios. Here is the dreaded graph, okay? If the firm increases its price, other firms will ignore it and keep the prices the same. So the quantity demanded for the firm will decrease a lot. So what you're going to see is even though there was just a small change in price, we get a big time change in the quantity demanded. Okay? That's because Zach took his price up, right? And he's going to see a lot less people go buy his product because we kept our price here and we're going to sell probably more. We're going to see the other effect on our graph. Okay, so that particular part of the kinked demand model is the elastic range, and then Vice versa, we get the other on the other side, we lower the price, we get a very little change, and so that ends up being the inelastic range. Okay, now once again, that's for you to see. Don't get bogged down in how that works. You're not good. It's almost like the long run average total cost curve, if you recall that one, where we got to know economies of scale, constant returns of scale, and diseconomies of scale, and really that's it. It's really the same thing here. Okay, one, you got to know this: the kink demand curve is what non-colluding oligopolies, what it would look like, and then just know that the top part is the elastic demand range, and the bottom part is the inelastic demand range. Other than that, do not get bogged down in the kink demand model if that's your thing. If you love this stuff, if you're overly excited about it, go to Con when you take Econ 6512, at the Mises Institute later on down the road, then you can come back and tell me all about it. But other than that, that is it. That is 4.3. We're closing in on the end of this unit. We're closing in on a spring break. Hopefully you guys get to, get away from this quarantine during spring break by going out on the back deck. Maybe you can go down to your basement, maybe go in the living room. I'd love to see you guys get out and relax a little bit. So enjoy your time doing that. And so, yeah, I will have everything for 4.4 up. Feel free to submit all the final stuff for it. Feel free to take the test on spring break if you want to. It is not required. That stuff is not due until spring break is technically over with. We're all going to be sitting around. I doubt that week looks very much different than the current week we're in. So if you want to jump on there and do that, you're certainly more than welcome to. As always, send me an email. I'll still be checking email, while I'm in the basement. So other than that, good luck, Godspeed. I'll have 4.4 up here in a day or so. But anyway, oligopolies 4.3.